military ways of the Ottoman Empire, and he's going to become one of the generals of the special forces of the Ottoman Empire. The Yeni chair. At the bottom of those guys, the guard of the king, of the Sultan himself. Now, it seems that Vlad Dracul and Sultan Mahmed were raised together, and they're going to be brothers in arms. But I'm going to ask you something, my friends. Are you going to be able to be friends with your bosses? Because I don't see too much of friendship between those guys. Because one of them is going to be the prince, the other one is going to be the prisoner. So, too much of brotherhood I don't see. As you remember, I told you that Sultan Mahmed is going to be one of the greatest military minds of those ages. But at the end, he's going to be a human being. And by being a human being, does that mean that he's going to make human mistakes? One of his biggest mistakes in his military career, sending Vlad over here as leader of the Wallachians. Now what he's going to do, in the moment that Vlad is going to be the leader of the Wallachians for 5 years, he's not going to pay the tribute to the Ottoman Empire. That's going to enrage a little bit Sultan Mahmed. But not only that, he's going to want to come over here to make an example out of Vlad, and also it's going to be a motive for him to pass through Transylvania and afterwards conquering Hungary and Austria. Now, Vlad Dracula is going to have a military power of 30,000 people. Sultan Mahmed, 80,000 military trained. In exchange, Vlad is going to have over here half of them military trained, the rest is going to be volunteers, peasants with forks and picks. So, but even so, he's going to be able to put the fear of God in all the Ottoman Empire. How is he going to be able to do that? He's going to have a guerrilla war against the Ottoman Empire. He's going to burn down the fields, poison the fountains, move whole villages from up front of the Ottoman Empire by nighttime. Him and a handful of his soldiers is going to enter in the camps and starts burning them down and kill the Ottomans. It seems that the legend goes that in one night, Vlad was almost capable of executing the Sultan himself. But instead of finding the tent of the Sultan, he's going to find his own brother over there. He was betrayed by his own brother to the Sultan. Now who knows, maybe today, if Vlad was able to kill Sultan Mahmed, today we're going to have Constantinople instead of Istanbul. A different type of history, who knows? We're not going to know that. Now, also, Vlad Dracula, you're going to know him under the nickname of Vlad the Impaler. Right? He's going to receive this because of his method of punishing his enemies, thieves, or higher ranks of the ones who's not going to subordinate him. Now, it's said that after one battle against the Ottoman Empire, he's going to be able to build more than 20,000 soldiers. He had to cut a whole forest down Papa Pius II as well, the athlete of Christianity. Now, the thing is, we're gonna have ourselves over here, Bloody Impaler, seeing something that he doesn't like. Now, Bran Castle was constructed firstly by the Teuton Knights in the 12th century, by the orders of the King of Hungary and Poland, because this was a commercial route between Bucharest and Brasov from those ages. And we're gonna have a lot of thieves in this area. Our, to say like this, our type of Robin Hoods, but over here we're gonna call them Haiduch. Now, the thing is, after a few years, the leaders of Brasov, they're gonna notice something. If they're gonna be able to construct the fortress that we're gonna be able to see, and they're gonna be able to construct a Weimar post as well. That means that anyone that had to do commerce from Bran, from Brasov to Bucharest, and to go to the Orient and Wallachia, had to pay 6% of their merchandise to Brasov, and not reverse. Now Vlad, in his reign, is going to notice that Wallachians had to pay more tribute to the Brasov leaders, and he's going to come over here to Brasov to have a friendly talk with them. You know, when you're going to speak about politics and football, discussions are going to get heated up. In this case, they didn't have any football, so it remained on politics. And the discussion got so heated up that 3/4 of Brasov is going to burn down, and great part of the leaders were impaled. The surviving ones, they're going to flee to the Pope and to the King of Hungary, telling that Vlad Dracula is no longer a defender of Christianity, but nothing more and nothing less than a demon, like his name said it is. Now, from the same time period, we're going to have ourselves the Florentine merchants that passed through Wallachia in those ages, writing to the Pope that we're going to have over here Wallachia being one of the safest countries in medieval times, because no one is going to be crazy enough to touch something that is not theirs. Now, it seems that Vlad Dracula was politically correct from those ages. For him, it didn't matter if you're going to be a count thief, nobleman, or higher rank in the military. All of them, they're going to receive the same punishment. Okay, the noblemen, you know that they always want some privileges. They want the front rows and also a better view. And Vlad Dracula give them that. They're going to build them higher poles, so they're going to be closer to God as well. Now that's going to be a little bit of the story of Vlad Dracula, because if I have to speak about him, I'm going to need around 4 hours. And he reigned Wallachia only for 10 years. 5 years once, 3 years second, and afterwards 2 years. So the life of Vlad Dracula literally is going to be involved in mystery all the way. Now, that's going to be medieval times. What we're going to have and how we know to know him about Dracula, who saw the movie Nosferatu? A few. Okay. Now you know that Nosferatu, the movie, was based on Bram Stoker's novel, right? Dracula. Yes. The thing is, Hollywood, they're gonna steal the novel, for example, and they're gonna want to pay off the rights to Bram Stoker's family. And they're gonna change the name to Nosferatu. Now about Bram Stoker, North Irish writer, pretty mediocre for his age, because he's gonna write several books, but the one who's gonna make him famous is gonna be Dracula. Can you tell me another book from Bram Stoker? He wrote around 20. Now, be able to write, to describe perfectly the architecture of the castle, the rooms of the castle, without stepping foot once in Transylvania. Now he's going to answer one of his journals. The ghost of the Count himself appears to me in my dreams. Guys, I don't know what kind of mushroom this guy ate in those ages, but had to be some good bloody ones. Now the thing is, years later, our gentleman Bram Stoker is going to want to write a sequel to his book, a more historical one, more to the truth. He wanted to come over here in Transylvania, visit the grounds, but he's not going to be able to do it. Can you imagine why? My friends, he's going to mysteriously die. Now his colleagues, his peers, start spreading the rumor that the ghost or the curse of Dracula himself killed Bram Stoker. Now, in more modern times, we know that our friend Bram Stoker had a small dependency. An opium, and he loved his absinthe. And seeing that our friend over here, Bram Stoker, didn't only brought to life vampirism back, but also invented rock and roll. Because guys, seems in those ages, drugs and alcohol is not going to kill you. What they're going to kill you in those ages, they're going to be ghosts or curses. And those are going to be a little bit the facts about how this frenzy about Dracula started. For us, Dracula's castle is known as Bran Castle. Not only that, but it's going to be known as the Queen's Heart. Can you tell me which queen? Once. No one? Who was the one who united all the territories of Romania? And them. I have two that's going to stay in the bus. Queen Mary, guys, not Elizabeth. Elizabeth was her mother-in-law. Now, Queen Mary, she's going to receive the Bran Castle from the leaders of Russia as a thank you of unifying the territories. She's going to come over here to reform it. Who was the main architect of the Polish castle? The one who sustained all the weight of the castle on his shoulders. Karol and Hal. Karol Liman from the Czech Republic. Now, they're gonna come over here to reform the castle, but they're still gonna maintain that medieval aspect of the castle. Only changes they're gonna do that, for example, we're going to have ourselves Queen Mary being an architect as well. So she's going to redesign the attic. She's going to make it a music room and a lodge where she's going to spend over there her summer nights. And also, for example, at the hillside of the castle, you're going to see a small house, a small Romanian house, typical from those ages. Now that's going to be the place where she's going to spend her summers and her winters. Because also she's going to be known to us as the mother of all Romanians. Not only because she unified their territories, but because in the First War, for example, she's going to start writing books, sell them, so she's going to be able to help the fallen soldiers with the Red Cross. She's going to be a nurse on the fronts as well, helping the soldiers. And time by time, before the war starts as well, she's going to flee the palaces from Bucharest